were. There were fewer railway workers, and some of the railway board and others had begun to turn away from the steam engines. The Fat Controller had moved much of the diesel traction to the main line, turning the branch lines into heritage railways for the steam engines. But Gordon was special. Much like his brother and cousins on the main line, he was reserved for running mainline specials. He often boasted to the other engines about it, but deep down he felt anxious. He carried their torch, but felt himself growing older. One morning, Gordon idled in Vickerstown Station with a smoke box filled with ideas and opinions about the railway's recent changes. "This is too big a change for the diesels to orchestrate. I wonder what's going on." His express had been renamed the Wild Northwestern Special and now only ran once a day. His axles ached as he sat, ready for the final run across the island for the week. "Is it my age making me feel sore, or the lack of exercise?" he thought to himself. Clive, the works diesel, rolled up at the platform next to him. "Still hanging on, are we, old Cap?" he said. "How are you feeling?" "Tired," Gordon mumbled, not wanting to feel like an old fish out of water. "It's not fair, all these changes," Clive sympathized. "Sadly, the world moves on, whether we wish to follow or not." With a honk from his horn, Clive pulled away, towing a line of empty flatbeds behind him. Gordon sighed. As nice as most of the diesels were about the matter, their dominion stung his pride. The station master's whistle finally blew, and Gordon set off. He huffed to gather speed as quickly as he wanted to. His pistons felt sticky, his springs squeaked. "Hurry, hurry," he puffed. But now he hurried because he was anxious about being too slow to make the stop on time. Just as he reached a steady pace, a rattle arose in his boiler. "Oh dear, oh dear." As they drew close to the Croven's gate, his driver shut off steam much earlier than he used to. "My reactions aren't what they used to be," his driver called to him. "Oh, on my brakes," thought Gordon gratefully. Rusty was at the station when Gordon slowed to a stop, with a rattle and a squeak. "You've had better sounding days," he said. "Is everything all right?" "Just some mechanical noises," Gordon answered, quietly. "Don't push yourself too hard," Rusty advised. "Scarlo and Rheneas may have pulled through grandly when they were wearing out, but they could never go as fast as you." "Thank you," Gordon replied, though the worry was beginning to get to him. "How is your line doing?" "We've had to put some engines up for sale," Rusty replied glumly. 3 have been bought, though 1 has been lost at sea during a terrible storm. I fear this is just the start." "You and me both," Gordon mumbled. The station master blew his whistle, and Gordon set off again. He hadn't got very far before a knocking began somewhere behind him. "What's that noise?" he called to his crew. "Something's loose on your tender," his fireman called back. "Not to worry, it's not the link." Soldiering on, Gordon thought about what Rusty had said. Other smaller engines had proven gallant in dire circumstances. "I can be Gordon the Gallant." He had noted the squeak in his springs, the rattle in his boiler, and the knock in his tender. Fastest and best. Fastest and best. He tried to gather speed. If this was going to be his final proper run, he wanted to make the most of the wind on his face. As he passed through Marin, Gordon took a deep puff, but it felt shallower than usual. In between him and his destination was a hill. He was more worthy adversary than ever. Fortunately, he was coming at it from the east side. He hadn't yet needed to rely on a banker engine for this direction. Then the Saxter struck. "I've got a terrible cramp, he wheezed as his driver slowed him down. "One of your valve gears are jammed," his driver called. "We should wait for a—" "No," Gordon objected. "I can do this hill myself." His driver steadied him, letting Gordon slowly begin his ascent. With his right piston aching, Gordon winced with every pump. Slowly, the special crawled up the hill. "I can do it. I can do it." He huffed and puffed, gritting teeth as the sky above him inched closer. "Careful, old boy," his driver called. Gordon pushed and pushed. The special would get to its destination, if not on time. It's the pride of all steam engines he was upholding, not just his own. "I can do it! I can do it!" Slowing to a crawl's crawl, the crest of the hill neared as they rounded the bend at the top. "Steady," his driver patted his cab. "We don't want to lose control down the other side." Gordon used all his might, all the little bits that remained of it, until his wheels began to inch forward on their own. His driver cautiously applied the brakes, and the train began to roll down the other side of the hill. Gordon wanted to cry, "I've done it," but was too out of breath to mouth the words. As they rolled into Wellsworth, battered but not beaten, trouble struck again. A spring burst from one of his left driver wheels, tipping his body to the right, lopsided. Gordon's squeak rattled and rolled to a stop by the water tower just beyond the platform, looking worse for wear. The station master ordered everybody off the train as the driver and fireman looked him over. "You shouldn't have work done ages ago," said his driver. "Sadly, the company couldn't afford it. I'm so sorry you're having to run like this." "At least I'm running," Gordon huffed. "And the journey isn't over yet." "You can't carry on like this," said the fireman. "I can," Gordon argued, "and I must." His crew discussed options with the station master, but there were no other engines nearby to take over. "I can do it," Gordon stood firm. "I must do it." "How about we uncouple one of the coaches?" the station master suggested. "There are very few passengers on the train to need three." The driver and fireman looked around the platform. "They'll easily fit into one coach." "All right, we'll do it." Two of the three coaches were uncoupled, and the passengers reboarded. With another whistle, Gordon tried to move, but couldn't go any further. Some engineers in the yard came to look at him. "He can make it," they agreed, "but you'll have to rely on one piston. We removed the coupling rods and the piston with the jammed valve." Everyone agreed, so they set to work. As they did, Gordon's crew began to refilling his water tank. Gordon sat, boiler fizzling with worry, as the workmen dismantled the right side. They gave his driver the all clear. Inching forward, Gordon felt his wheels moving with less resistance. Slowly, carefully, the special left the station. Gordon chuffed through the countryside. His speeds of old were out of the question given his precarious health, but he didn't relent. "I will get the special home. I will." As they hobbled down the line, he found himself approaching the sights that slipped but at a slower speed than he used to. Soda was usually a blur to him, but now he could see it clear for the first time. "Such a shame. It's probably my final journey," he thought to himself. They passed through Crosby. Gordon huffed and puffed, driving each turn of his wheels with all the might he could find. It was hard work, and felt like it was getting harder. This is how Edward must feel. His mind tried to distract him. Poor engine. Oh, how I made fun of him. Before he knew it, his perseverance paid off. They drew into Knapford, and his driver brought the train to a stop. "We'll get Bad to take passengers up to Teignmouth," the driver told him. "Find another engine to push you the rest of the way." "I can make it," protested. A throat cleared from nearby. It was the Fat Controller. "You've gone far beyond what I could ever ask, Gordon," he said. "But I must insist, I do not want your stubbornness to be the end of you." "Yes, sir," Gordon sighed, defeated, but then he thought, "You mean this wasn't my last run?" "Gordon," the Fat Controller patted his notebox, "you are the Express. You always have been, and I'll be having you pull the trains until this railway's last day. You'll be fixed, I promise." Gordon smiled, and as a round of applause from his disembarking passengers erupted from the platform behind him, he beamed.